Yeah. So
All right, are we recording?
Yep.
It is. I'll see it recording.
See it up in the corner?
you
All
are
right.
recording.
All right. Call the meeting to order. Let's have the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, I will pass it over to Peggy, who is remote, to do the first Selectwoman's updates.
Sure. So I just want to update. Obviously, we're in kind of a full summer mode, and school got out this last week. Congratulations to the graduates of Daniel Han High. I know they had beautiful weather for their graduation. And also this weekend is going to be our bicentennial celebration. The Rising Strawberry Moon Festival is being held on Saturday at the Surf Club from 11 till 7:30. We encourage members of the public to join us. If you're a Madison resident, there's no entrance fee. And if you're not a Madison resident, I encourage you to purchase in advance a parking pass if you'd like to attend the event, or we're offering shuttle buses that you can take. And I think they're going from the commuter lot, oh no, from the train station, right? Train station. And those will start running, I think, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But the website will have all the most up-to-date information, but we also have an exciting performers, bands lined up for the afternoon. A lot of great things happening. So just encourage people to attend the event this Saturday. Last Saturday, we had a wonderful, more somber, I guess, commemoration ceremony for the 200th anniversary, or formal, I should say, not somber, but and that was well off in partnership with the Madison Historical Society at Lee Academy, and that was a wonderful event. I just want to thank all the staff and the Historical Society and the American Legion and the VFW that helped participate in that, along with the Madison Hose, who was the color guard. Really nice ceremony. So lots to do to celebrate for our bicentennial. There's more to come, so please check out the website. So that's kind of my update for today.
All right. Thanks, Peggy. Any liaison reports or selectmen's comments? Bruce, maybe I'll start with you.
No,
Well,
I will just supplement Peggy's comments regarding the bicentennial. There is a rain date planned for Sunday, should Saturday's event needed to be postponed. And the town website has a very prominent link to all of the bicentennial celebration events. It's right on the main page of the town website.
I think there'll be more communication coming out from the town, I would assume, this week, just given the banner is over 79 for the Strawberry Moon Festival on the
There's
27th.
also, yeah, and I should have mentioned, there's also the unveiling at the Surf Club of the wonderful mural that Patrick Ganino had painted. So he will be attending that at 5 o'clock down on Friday. And then our first district discovery event also is going to be on Island Avenue at the Princess House, which will have live music and celebrating our school districts throughout, historic school districts throughout. And this will be one of the district discoveries of one of the original schoolhouse districts on Friday. So, but all the details are on the website. And more community, there'll be a lot of blasts this week going out on Facebook and social, and through Madison alerts about the schedule.
Very good. Thank you.
I've got one planning and zoning related. I know there's been some conversation that was popping up on Facebook recently, so I want to make sure everybody is aware that planning and zoning is going to be having a public hearing. It was meant to be last week, but there was some notification error, so it's going to now occur at Planning and Zoning's July 9th meeting. And what it is a text amendment regarding middle housing. And that is being discussed in order to address legislative changes that came about in the last special session. And so if anybody wants to look it up, it's Special Session Public Act 25-1, House Bill 8002. And you can also find more information and all the wording changes on the town website. If you go into the planning and zoning tab and then look at their agendas, you can find all the documentation there.
Awesome. Very good. And I have no updates liaison wise, but I will push us over to item number 5 on our agenda, which is the citizens' comments. Do I have any citizens in the room that would like to make any comments publicly? Don't have to.
I can make a comment if you give me the subject.
So, anybody online would like to make a comment, Jeannie?
There are no hands raised online.
Very good. Okay, I will move us ahead to agenda item number 6, which is the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. So Jen and Al. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
Well, I would just like to thank Alex. I don't know if folks online can see, but Alex Province, Madison resident and artist, was very generous in his donation of a portrait of James Madison to the town in celebration of Madison 200, America 250. So I'm not sure where this is going to be permanently displayed, but we do have it here. So hopefully folks will be able to get a chance to see that soon, and we'll let everybody know where it goes.
He's like an extra person in our meeting today, to be honest. James Madison.
Yeah.
He feels like he's looking at me, saying, could you please move the agenda? No, thank you, Alex. Incredibly generous. It is a incredibly beautiful painting. And we will certainly find an appropriate place to have it displayed somewhere in town hall or an appropriate building. But we are.
Yeah, we've talked about different options, because I think trying to find something that highlights it and has a lot of public visibility. So we've been exploring some different options, but we'll figure something out for sure. And do thank him. It's a really a lovely piece and just a very striking piece, I think, because it just shows a lot of, like, I don't know if it's emotion or whatever, but very different than like the other portrait we have up hanging to the right of the on the right there of James Madison in the room.
Yeah.
Appreciative of his willingness to donate something so important, I think, for the town's 200. So thank you.
Very beautiful. We will get to that in one moment, but let us vote on the consent agenda. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Right.
Aye. Very good. Consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to number 7, which thank
You
you.
jumped ahead,
You jumped
sorry.
ahead. It's okay. We transitioned to the acceptance of the James Madison portrait painted and donated by Alex Province in honor of America's 250 and Madison's 200th anniversaries. Do I have a motion to accept this generous donation?
Well, I will motion since I jumped ahead.
And I will second. How's that? So, very good. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Very good. Thank you, Alex. Motion accepted. Number 8, we will discuss the next steps for the Surf Club master plan. And Peggy, I believe you have some slides. We'll move it over to you.
Yeah, and Austin can jump in. I think we just wanted to we've gotten a number of emails. There was a nice group at the Neck River when we had the public information session a few weeks ago on the concept plan. I don't know, how many people do you think was there, Austin?
40 or 50.
Yeah, 40 or 50, and I would say we had probably 30 online as well. And that is recorded, and we encourage people to watch that. That was the public's first opportunity to kind of see all the how this is all coming together, right? And the idea was to put forward an idea based on public feedback and board feedback. And it's one of those things, you put it out there and there's going to be a lot of eggs thrown at it, but there's also going to be a lot of interesting thoughts that come out of it. And then it'll go through an evolutionary process here. So I want to just share, I have a lot of detail, like answers and responses to some of the public comment that we received. And I don't want to spend today going through it in detail, but that will be available on the website. A lot of it's more something that people can read. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it just comes in on the right-hand one.
Okay, so you can see it though.
We're good. Yeah, we can still see you and the screen.
We're good.
Okay, perfect. So, just first thing, I wanted to really quickly highlight, I'd shown this in the May meeting, but I know there seems to be still a lot of just maybe confusion about what's going on down at the surf club. And as more and more people are going down there because the summer season has started, they're seeing some of the measures that we've been taking to stabilize what is really the old seawall. And so I just want to highlight this really quickly. We've talked about this last month, but want to highlight again that we're seeing a lot more erosion at the beach. And what's interesting going through the
I
master
think you have to
planning.
move it forward. I don't think it's gone forward yet.
Oh, it didn't?
And can you put it in slideshow mode?
It is in
It's
slideshow mode.
it's
So it's
not
not,
it's
not
not showing
showing. Okay, what's showing right now?
your screen, but it's showing the first slide.
Okay, is it moving now?
No.
No. All right, so let me stop sharing.
Do you want me to share?
Um, yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't. Let me stop and try again. So this thing gets really funky sometimes. So, all right, I'm going to go back again. We're going to share the slide. PowerPoint. Okay. All right. So what do you
Yep,
see
you're
slide?
good.
Good.
Yep.
Slide 2. And is it going to slide 3?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go back to slide 2. Anyways, this is just highlighting, we had a lot of storm events that caused a lot of us to lose a lot of sand. And that's been an ongoing process, and part of the Surf Club master planning process has been helpful because we've kind of seen how much the beach has changed over the last 50 years. And there's some great materials if you look at the presentation and pictures showing how the beach has actually shrunk quite a bit. High tide is higher. Um, and so what has happened is that some of the storms eroded so much sand that the old seawall, not the Garvin Point seawall that was installed last year, that has done fabulously well in terms of the enduring these storms. But there's an older seawall that was built in the 1980s, the one that kind of goes in front of the playground and the beach adjacent to the Garvin Point seawall, became destabilized basically, and it had very small footings. It lost a lot of the soil that was kind of keeping it up, and then there was a lot of wave action that took out the ground behind it that was also holding it up. So anyway, so that is what caused that wall to start being destabilized. We've made taken emergency measures to kind of secure that wall, and that's why those concrete blocks are laying in front of that seawall. It has nothing to do with Garvin Point seawall. It has to do with the old seawall is destabilized. So those cement blocks are there to keep that seawall up. And then, and we've just been trying to put sandbags over it to cover it because those blocks have these metal, or not metal, but steel rods that you use to kind of move the blocks. And then we thought that was a hazard. We didn't want people jumping onto the sand and then tripping over a steel rod. So we put sandbags over that, and we've been regularly adding sand to the beach to cover that up, but also to try to get some of the beach back. And that's been a process that we've been going with. So a lot of efforts were taken starting in March to stabilize the old wall and to protect the beach. We're also going through an independent review because where the old seawall and the new Garvin Point seawall they're connected. And that was because we didn't want to have water going in between them and destabilizing it that way. But what has happened is that the old seawall, because it started to collapse, is putting pressure on the new seawall. So we're looking at how best to do that. Do we separate them? Are there other things that we should be doing to ensure that the collapse of the old seawall does not impact the new one? And so we're going through a process and trying to figure out what our next steps are going to be on that. We'll have a public conversation about that soon when we get that independent engineering report back. And then overall, the bigger conversation as part of the Surf Club master plan is to talk about, well, what do we do about that old seawall? Do we want to put that into CIP and have a seawall replacement plan, or do we want to look at something different? And that's where bringing in the consultant and going through the master planning process, we've kind of come up with a preliminary recommendation that we don't rebuild that seawall, we don't save it. And instead, we turn to a more nature-based alternative, which would include dune restoration. The presentation talks about installing reef balls out further along the beach into the water, and then doing a beach nourishment program. So that's kind of what came out of the Surf Club master plan. So that we're not going to sit there and try to save that old seawall. Instead, we're going to look at a different option instead and use more of a nature-based alternative. So that's helped us with making some decisions on a potential capital project. So that's fed into this concept plan that was presented a few weeks ago, was the fact that we were going to need to retreat basically from the water and expand the beach to save the beach, essentially. And then another important kind of driver in the plan that we presented, and if you watch the video, I think he does a great job explaining all this, but I'm just highlighting again what he was explaining, was that the surf club building is also at risk in its current location. It's too close to the water. It's in what we call a high velocity wave action zone. And if you look at kind of the floodplain and how the rising tides are kind of encroaching into the beach areas, the building is highly exposed, and we either need to relocate it or we tear it down completely. Relocating it is going to be very expensive, and we can't just repair it in place because it's in the floodplain. We can only make limited improvements to that building based on FEMA regulations. So we can only invest up to 50% of the structure value without actually having to elevate it, because that's what the FEMA regulations would require. So it makes it very cost prohibitive for us to make improvements. I know there was a lot of public ideas about there. Why can't we just paint it and then, improve the bathrooms and all of those, the structure value, and I don't know the exact number, is quite low on that building because of the age and the condition. And so we would only be able to put so much money in each year to that building, up to 50% of that structure value, which wouldn't be enough to make the improvements that are required. And then in addition to that, if we did go over that 50%, we'd have to elevate it, which is very expensive. So I think the conclusion had been that all those costs combined don't make sense because the building is also not adequately suited to what the town needs. And so the idea would be we would not reuse it. We would basically demo the building, and then we would rebuild a new building, which is what the concept plan shows, in a new location further back from the beach. And that was what was driving some of the plan development that came out. And that was based on professional expertise, and then also a lot of public outreach that had been done prior to this. So the next couple pages kind of walk through some of the concerns that were raised. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through each one of these. I think this is, since we don't have a lot of public on right now, but I just want to highlight that one of the big, I thought, misunderstandings. So the new building, I think, was proposing kind of an event space in it that could host up to 150 people. And a lot of people just thought that is way too big. We don't need some sort of large wedding venue here. It's just going to, is the town trying to make it a destination wedding venue and things like that. Really, all we're trying to do is, right now, the surf club in the summer months hosts up to 120 people. The room itself can only hold 72 in the indoor space. That room can be used year round. The front room with the little fireplace in it, that can hold up to 72, but with the deck and the tent, the capacity goes up to 120. So most of our, bookings are during the summer months, although we do have a lot of year-round bookings. They want space up to 120 people. So we're already serving that 120 person benchmark. And I think a lot of people calls and requests from residents is they would like something a little bit bigger so they could have kind of an, typical wedding or celebration event there. So that's kind of what drove the square footage of this building. The other thing that drove it was, right now we hold a lot of day programming, especially during the summer months. We have our summer escape camp. And that is our indoor space for when it rains. And so one of a couple different things that they use. And so having a separate space for the camps and the programming that goes on, and keeping it separate from the actual celebration or event space. Because right now you have to you can't have anything in the room. It all has to be focused on whatever's going on during the day. And then you have to have this whole switch over thing. And events are going on at night. So the thought was creating two separate spaces rather than having one multi-purpose space. So that was another kind of key thing that came out of the public feedback of separating out the programming space from the event space. Right now, it's all in one space. And so that also drove kind of the size of the building. I would say the other third thing that there was this whole thing about administrative space, that this is just too much, it's all offices. And I think I looked at it, they're only adding an additional, I think, 150 square feet, and I've got it somewhere in here. And if you go through these, there's 3 pages of this. So I think people should read it, at their leisure later. But the office space is only expanding it slightly. And I think what people need to understand is this office space runs the entire facility, not just the building, but it's for everything going on at the surf club on a very busy day that hosts athletic events, sporting events, picnics, and then also the actual event space itself. So you can have up to 30 staff members going in and out of the administrative space, just running the operations. So having a little bit more flexible space, adding that, I think here it is, it shows down on the slide, 170 square feet of new administrative space, was just trying to meet that need. And address the fact that, you're going to have a lot of people coming in and out and you need to have that staff there. I think it's improved. We moved the surf club, or we moved the beach and rec staff down permanently to the surf club, I think 4 years ago. And, Austin can talk about this later if he'd like to chime in, but it was a home run. I think the facility's managed better because of it. I think they do a better job with their programming. I think to have people locally dealing with that on site, I think has been a big home run. So the view is that we want to continue to offer that in whatever new building we build, and make sure that there's enough space to house, the staff that is doing all the servicing and everything for everything going on down there. So those were some of the things about the building that stood out to me of what drove this design. And I've had a lot of people come up to me in the public say, it's too big. It's supposed to be small and all about Madison. And I totally recognize that. And maybe we haven't hit that yet with this design, and we can talk more about it. But the rationale behind this is not to try to create some sort of, destination wedding venue. It is to try to meet already the current demand that we have. And Austin, maybe you just want to spend a second talking about all the stuff that goes on in that building and the rentals that we already have. And then
Sure.
also just talk about the policies, because I think there was some misunderstanding about the policies and when you can use the surf club building for weddings.
Yeah, so we do between 50 and 60 rentals a year at the surf club. And during the beach pass season, so Memorial Day to Labor Day, the rental time starts at 5 o'clock. So it's not during the big summer beach rush. It's they can start setting up at 3 inside, but the functions themselves and the guests can't arrive till 5. So it's not interrupting anybody's day on the beach. We do, just in the past, say 3 weekends, Daniel Hand graduation parties, memorial services, weddings. We had a first birthday party and we had a 90th birthday party all in the same weekend.
Wow.
And again, as Peggy said, these are your fellow Madison residents renting it. We do not rent to non-Madison folks. It's just Madison residents renting the building.
So Austin, I think that bears repeating. This is an amenity that we're talking about that directly benefits Madison residents. This is
Yes.
not for people from New York City to come up and
Have a
overrun
wedding,
the
right.
place for the weekend.
Right.
This is for our friends and neighbors
Absolutely.
to be able to enjoy, a dream wedding on the beach that they might not have the means or ability to do somewhere else.
I don't think we're looking to compete with the hotel either, right? That's sort of the
Or the beach
goal
club.
of the hotel or the beach club or whatever. Exactly. Yeah.
So people think
Yeah.
this is going to be some out of control commercial venture. It is
Meeting the
only as
demand.
out of control as residents use it.
Yeah. It's meeting the demand of our residents.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well put.
And
And I
it's,
think that was a complaint that we heard a lot from people over the years is the building needs, they want more space. They want a little better kitchen setup, because it's pretty, minimal right now for catering and things like that. They want nicer bathrooms, right? And so that is what this was attempting to do. And the size, I think, Austin, you probably hear it the most. These are local people that want to be able to have, a wedding here and capping it during the summer at 120 if the weather is good, but if it's not good indoors, you can only have 70 people.
right,
So,
that's a
It's hard to
tough,
plan for that too.
right, that's a tough spot to put a wedding or any party in.
Right.
You could have 120 people if you rent the deck and tent. But if there's thunder and lightning, you have to come inside. What do you do with those 40 people? Like, who makes the cut to come inside and who has to leave? That's a tough spot to put a bride or a grieving widow in who's having a memorial service. That's hard.
Yeah.
So having enough space to have your total number of guests inside is, I think, it's important. It's kind of mandatory what the minimum we should do. And we get, weekly folks come in and we tour them around the facility, show them, where their event can be, where their service can be. And we have to tell them, look, you have to rent the deck and tent to get to that 120 number. And most of the time, that's not enough for people. The average,
Even the 120.
yeah. So, I mean, the average wedding, 150 people, and we just can't host that many. So they have to go find somewhere else to have their day. And I think as Peggy said earlier, we're not looking for 200-300. This isn't Woodwinds. This isn't Anthony's Ocean View, but it's a small venue. But you have to be able to accommodate what Madison residents want down there, and that's a little more than 120 people.
And I think the other thing on the programming space, if you can talk a little bit about the high demand, Austin, for our summer camps, like they fill within minutes of posting online, and we are limited about what we can do because of the fact that we don't have a lot of indoor space in case the weather's bad, right?
Yeah, so we have our summer escape camp, which is our full day camp. We run that down at the surf club. It's a great spot to have it. The kids swim. We have special events for them. And we try to accommodate as many kids as we can because the need is there. When we put these camp spots on sale, they're gone within 15 minutes of us putting them
Black
live
Friday.
on. Yeah, yes,
Austin, these are Madison children?
yes.
Yeah, I couldn't get a spot for my kids several years because I didn't even know it was going online, and I was like, I can't get my kids into the surf club camp. So it's a complaint. It's a problem.
We're hamstrung by our indoor space, similar to weddings and birthday parties. We need a place to go when it's raining and there's inclement weather. So currently we use one of the team rooms at Strong Field. It's tight to get 80 kids in a room like that. There's no air conditioning in the heat of August in that team room. It's a tough scene. So hopefully we don't get too many rain days, thankfully. But when we do, the staff do a tremendous job in entertaining the kids that day. But it's tough. We need a room where we can, provide the experience that the parents are paying for on days when there's inclement weather. And this would really allow us to do that, where we have to try our best now. This gives us an opportunity to, provide to the public what their expectations are.
Well, and I think if we determine, and we've heard a lot from the public that they feel the building is too big, and obviously there's a cost associated with the larger building, then the question becomes, do we then go back to that flex space that, it's a event venue in the evenings and it's used for other things during the day, and there's a lot of challenges with that. That's all. That's going to be a conversation that we're going to have to maybe have if people don't want to support the building that's being proposed right now in terms of square footage size. I asked, don't focus on the design or any it's just more rough size. And so that's the conversation I think that we need to be having.
Yeah, and I think one of the dilemmas that we've got as we're rolling this out is people have a preconceived notion from their perspective of what enough space is. And when they say too big, it's because from their perspective, they're saying, well, this is fine, but it's really not. And I think that's really going to be important for us to communicate that these are all the different uses we're contemplating out of this building. Yes, part of it is that wedding party venue. Part of it is the sheltering for kids in camps. We say rain, but it could just as easily be lightning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we've got to have this shelter during those summer camps. We've got to have basic facilities for the day staff there, the lifeguards. We've got to have facilities for the administrative staff. And I think in all of our discussions, that administrative space really didn't move at all. It was the associated day staff space. So, I mean, we're talking about lockers and changing rooms and things like that. So our public response to the size conversation should be, here are all the different uses that we think need to happen in this building and how much space they need to have. And then you're left with the aggregate space. Then the real choice is, do you push it all on one floor and have a much bigger footprint on the ground? Or do you try to go up to decrease the footprint, but accommodate those same needs? Design, all of that is still really far off. It's just about getting agreement and buy-in that, oh yeah, that's a good, a prep kitchen that is up to code is good to have. The
Right.
basic
Purpose
office
and use,
space for
right?
the admin, right?
Yeah.
The sheltering for the summer camps. These are all good. Okay, well, if we all agree those are good to have, then now our choice is, how much do we want to spread it out on the ground, or how much do we want to go up? How it looks, that'll be up to architects to help us figure out, but it won't be a brick building, right? It won't be a box. It'll be something that fits the landscape.
And I think we're super sensitive too. I mean, we've seen the comments about, if you're at the football game in the stands, we don't want a building blocking the view, so to speak. So I think, all those things are going to be in consideration through the design process. I've seen the conversations, seen how that's starting to play out. So I think, it's a balancing act, right? There's a lot, whether it's numbers of people that need to use it, whether it's, staff, whether it's view, there's a lot of considerations because this is such an important, venue for our town and our residents. This is a place that, people come to Madison for. I came to Madison for this. I mean, so, I think this isn't something we're going to rush into and think lightly about. I think we're really going to spend a lot of time, I think, on this and be very thoughtful about the design. And if the designs that are coming back don't work, we'll go back to the drawing board and start again. Right.
Now, I appreciate that the Surf Club is getting all the conversation.
Yeah.
But of the different projects is probably also one of the ones that's farther out on the horizon for action.
Right.
That we've got more pressing decisions in front of us. And I was thinking about this before the meeting tonight, and the agenda item is, next steps for moving this conversation forward. I think we should begin to describe different needs, right? So the beach is going to be the poster child for immediate infrastructure needs. And then there will be projects in that group. And then there will be improving the park, in amenities, improving amenities in the park. And that will be, a variety of different things. And then there will be some of the more visionary and grander aspects of the project. And those will be out farther. And of course, as we go out farther, I'm also thinking they become incrementally more expensive, but it gives us the runway we need to figure out exactly what's going to be right for us. And I think to help the public catch up with certainly the beach and rec conversation, because they've had these conversations in some form or another already, but to give the public a chance to catch up, we should start to segment these into different buckets so that people don't think our lead project is reimagining the surf club building.
Right. And to go along with that, we've heard over the years from members of the community that, they really wanted us to go in the direction of master planning and not just picking a project and doing that and then, oh, wait, now we got to do this. Oh,
right?
now we need to do that, and everything's in isolation. And especially with something like Surf Club, a domino is going to fall, and then the next one, and then the next, and the next. So we have to do it. We have to come up with the whole plan so that we can segment it and stage it and phase it in so that everything makes sense. So that it's all happening in an organized fashion. So that's why, I think maybe too, there might be a little bit of frustration from the public is maybe just not, maybe thinking that we're going to do this all at once and not in that staged approach. But yeah, I mean, this is very much going to happen over the course of a number of years after, projects have been put into CIP and money has been set aside and raised for it. Nothing that is happening down there is, going to happen quickly or immediately. And I think that, yes, all of us can, recognize that the first hurdle that we're going to need to cross is beach nourishment, restoration, seawall. But in order to make that decision, we need to know what's happening behind the seawall so that we can do it all appropriately so that it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd like
think
to add
that's
to
Sorry, go ahead.
early right now.
We're first developing a master plan.
Mhm.
And so I think we should continue onward. We're getting a lot of feedback,
Mhm.
a lot of useful feedback. And I think, Peggy, it was very helpful to put together all of the comments and questions and then a response to them. And I think it makes a lot of sense. So I think we should continue onward. Absolutely.
One thing I would say I would like to really make sure we have information on for the next iteration of this conversation is what is the value of the surf club building as it stands. Just because there is a lot of conversation from the public, there's a lot of sentimental value to that building, as we've seen with many buildings in town. So I think putting a number to it so that not just us, but the public really understands what is the value of the building? What does that 50% threshold really mean when it comes to monetary investment in the structure that would then trigger, FEMA regulations and that sort of thing. So I think we definitely need to have that information available, not just to us, but to the public for the future conversation.
The other thing that just before you jump in is I think I've seen on social media and through personal conversations a lot about, preserving the character of our town, and that this again was something that people moved here for, that they care and love and, want to make sure that it is in the character of the town of Madison as opposed to maybe New Haven or New London or Fairfield County or whatever, right? So I think, all of those things need to be part of this thoughtful design and phasing in of whatever step happens. I'll give you an example. But we were talking about this earlier, but like the splash pad. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of that, just given that may or may not be part of the character of the town of Madison. So I think, we've got to evaluate, what is really truly important to our residents from a purpose and use standpoint. And is it aligned with the character that we want this town to obtain and to achieve?
Yes.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of amenities that I think he was just saying, if these are things that we would want to do eventually, right? Can you hear me? Yeah, if we were gonna add these, it's better to plan for them now, right? If you're gonna be going and mapping out space, and how you're gonna use that space. He was trying to be forward thinking and identify things that he heard from the public that he would want, but that's obviously a conversation we have to have. So, and these are also optional things, obviously we can't afford to do everything right away. So I agree. Like, I think people kind of focused on some of that stuff. It's like, hey, this is just more like, if you wanted to do it, this would be a place you could do it, right? So you'd be thoughtful about planning for the future amenities that we might want to add.
Austin, I'm curious, how much square footage of the current building or percentage of the current building is offices right now?
Right now, the admin office is about 900 square feet.
Out of how many? What's the total square footage? Do you know?
You saw me there.
I'm putting you on the spot. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's on the presentation on the website. It is, I want to say 3,600. No, I can't remember now. I mean, there's a slide that shows the existing building and what the proposed building, and it shows admin space. It has all that on it.
It was 5,000. 5,000.
5,000.
Yeah.
So
Small percent.
yeah, small percentage, and it's a chopped up. So the room that we're in now used to be a preschool room. So all of my staff is in one like bullpen area.
Right. Yeah.
And
With little.
you wouldn't think so, but on a daily basis, we have to have some pretty sensitive conversations with families in town, and privacy is not an option currently. You could be at our front desk purchasing Beach Pass, registering for something, and there's a pretty sensitive conversation happening 5 feet away that you probably don't want the whole world to hear. Doors aren't the thing that we have the pleasure of having right now. We have the main, or not the main, we have the summer office. So you come to the front window. That's glorified closet space, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it the summer office, but it is what it is. Yeah.
It houses like the computer technology bank, and a couple of chairs and a desk. And then in the back of the building, we have the lifeguard space that houses all of the lifeguard equipment. Life-saving equipment, kayaks, the paddle board, refrigerator, a television screen, small screens. We could do staff trainings. That's it. The rest is bathrooms, hallways, and the main function room.
And on the revenue side, what are we talking about? And just this can be notional, but to rent the space, what does that typically look like?
So the average rental is about $1,800, of which you get $500 back for your security deposit. So $1,300.
1,300.
So it's $100 an hour. $500 security deposit, $50 alcohol permit. If you want the deck, it's $625 for the deck and the tent. So the majority of them, are from 5 to 11. So $600 for a rental fee, $625 for the deck and tent, and then that's it.
And are all those costs, like rental, the camp costs, all those things, are those available on the website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole surf club rental booklet that's on the website.
Perfect.
That tells you the breakdown of everything, what comes with it, the amenities you get with the rental and how much it costs.
Awesome, thanks. Perfect. Sorry,
Um,
Maggie.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Just, I just want to encourage people, if you go to the, one of the slides, I don't know, I think it's one of the pages, it talks about that the existing building is, I don't know, I had 5,500 square feet. And then the new building proposes basically double that. And like I said, one of the main drivers of that space is more the fact that we're offering we're offering a programming space and we're offering an event space, whereas right now it's kind of combined, right? So, so that definitely adds a lot of square footage, but, so this will be a conversation to continue. And, we tried to address what we heard is kind of bubbling up either through emails or questions that came online in this document, and this will be available for the public to read. And this is not saying this is the way it's going to be. This is just the rationale behind what was put into the concept plan, right? And I do want to comment about, I heard a lot, they're cutting all the trees down, they're doing, the trees in the beach area are really not going to be, it's going to be selective, what's removed there. Most of the tree selection, it's not going to be too much, is more because of the parking up on the upper field area to accommodate more parking and an access road, which is not to serve the wedding venue, it's to serve people go in the athletic fields up there. There's going to be bathrooms up there now. So any family that does sports here is going to really appreciate that. And that's where the additional parking spaces are mostly. The parking down in the lower part is really just redesigned in a different way to address a lot of concerns and make it more accessible, certain parts of the park. And then the parking that's being added is mostly focused up on the athletic field areas, not down in the beach areas. So those are some things that I think people just misunderstood a little bit. So I did want to also comment, I know there was this, all these people felt that how can you base this on 175 surveys online and the sessions in the fall? We tried to get a lot more public input in the fall, and we need to do better, and we got to keep trying. But I do want to highlight that this was pushed heavily in the fall. We used, but unfortunately, time of year, November and December, holidays, things like that. But we needed to get that feedback so that he could start working on a draft plan. So there was an immense amount of outreach through social media, through our email lists, through community updates, the Madison alerts. Now, everything goes out in a Madison alerts of significance that the town does. We have over 2,000 subscribers. We need more subscribers to that. You can get a text alert, you can get an email list. I can't add you to that. You have to voluntarily sign up and subscribe. Another thing we talked about is that the town can't post on most of the community pages. It has to be shared by somebody. So we try to get people to share it, but we can't, it's not allowed. Most of these community pages, as a rules, we can't join. The town can't join the community page. So we put things out there and we just hope people share it. And then there was news articles. The source did several articles on the master planning process. The patch always picks up my community updates, so the stuff is always pushed out through that. But I get it. A lot of people at the meeting said, I never got a survey. Well, we don't email out surveys to people. We say, we're doing a survey, and it'll go out on all these different things, and there'll be a link to the website with the survey. But we want to hustle more and get more input. We're going to do more. We have some more ideas over the summer how to do that. Now there's an actual plan. The survey before was really high level conceptual. What do you want? What do you aspire to? What do you care about? What are your concerns? So it's very broad. Now there's actually something to zero and focus in on, and we're getting very specific comments about what was presented. But I do want to say that help us get to people, right? Tell people about this stuff. If you're a member of a civic group or a sports league, shoot it out to your email list. Say, hey, everybody should fill the survey out. Everybody should attend this meeting. Tell your friends and neighbors, sign up for Madison alerts, because it's not just community update. It's also any kind of, important thing going on in town. We use Madison alerts for. And then try to share what we post on the town pages on the community pages directly. So rather than relying on, people who went to the meeting, watch the meeting yourself, right? And those links are all available on the website. So, So that I just wanted to highlight that we are making an effort, but obviously we can always do better and we want to do better. So we want to get more feedback to make sure that people are happy and they're and concerned. We're never going to make everybody happy. But we will do our best to try to find that sweet spot that we get what we need to do with this project in a budget that makes sense and addresses community needs. So next steps. I kind of put this out here, just we haven't finalized a timeline or anything. Obviously, that's going to be, I think, the consultant with the Beach and Rec Commission and then our board. But there was a lot of conversation about the public needs to be more involved in this. And I do want to say, and then somebody said we need a whole nother board or a new committee to do this. And this is led by the Beach and Rec Commission. So it's already led by a 5-member volunteer board from the town. They're all Madison residents. And obviously the Board of Selectmen is Madison residents, and all of them but one is volunteer. But then in addition to this, we have all these other public boards that are volunteers of people who live in town who will have the opportunity as part of their board and commission to weigh in on this plan. Conservation Commission, the Tree Advisory Commission, the Climate Resilience Commission, the Facilities Committee, Planning and Zoning ultimately will have to review all of this, Inland Wetlands Commission, ACA. So there's going to be a lot of public people weighing in on this plan in a formal way through a board and commission. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is we would likely, and we'll talk about this, is similar we do with other major building projects, appoint a building committee that would oversee the implementation of the project. So the boards can talk about that. Now, this might be phased. That's a big commitment to be in a building committee, but we've had one for all of our bonding projects. We have building committees. So that's something that we could talk about in the future, to have a building committee oversee this process. Once we kind of come up with a plan that's approved and adopted by the town. So this isn't a specific next steps thing, because I think we need to figure this out a little bit more, but we are going to be doing outreach efforts at the Rising Strawberry Moon Festival. And then we're going to have, I think, displays at the library, which is a kind of a town, a town resource location, as well as the senior center. And then we'll kind of take it from there and map out like another round of this and maybe revisions potentially to the concept plan. So that's what I've got.
That was great. Great update. Any final comments on this?
The only other thought I would add to it is for us to start setting some date expectations around some of these milestones. When do we expect to be tackling one topic or another? The agreement with Kent and Frost is going to be winding down at some point, right? They're not on. This is not a
Perpetual.
They're not on the payroll forever. They had a discrete project,
Yeah.
And at some point they will be ready to hand off that completed project, and that's before the end of this year, right?
Yeah, so their project is to complete the master plan document. And so we're heading in that direction, but that will be few months from now, but yeah, definitely before the end of the year.
When you say complete the plan, there's going to be a lot of feedback that's going to be coming much later than 2 months from now. Austin, how does that get folded in?
So, I mean, eventually you have to, we have a task at hand, is to develop a surf club master plan. There is it's not a never ending project. At some point you have to say that the public has had a lot of input, and we're going to get more input as we go along. Staff has had input, all the boards and commissions have had input. There has to be a time where you say we've done it, we've done the best we can, and this is the master plan that we're moving forward.
Yeah.
Similar to what we did with the master plan we completed for the
There's a verb downtown. Any of them, Academy.
Yeah, well,
Any,
yeah,
any
all
of
of
them.
them.
Well, or the strategic plan, right?
Yeah, the
You know, there's a
strategic plan,
certain
thank you.
point, yeah, that I think that we as a board have to vote to adopt, and we can decide, do we want to send it to town meeting, or do we want to do it as just a board, because it's kind of a planning document. It's not, you know, and then there's the funding piece, which is what we're going to be talking about this fall, right? Prioritizing projects. So I think the goal is to have this pretty much done by, I would say, September, right? In terms of, this is kind of the plan. And then how we prioritize it and pay for it is another discussion, and phase it. So, and
But
is it realistic to have it done by September? I would hope we would. That was the original timeline, I think, is by the end of the summer, this summer, that we got started a little later, I think, than we wanted, right? We missed a little bit of the summer last summer, so, but I would hope by September we would have a final document that we would be adopting as a board.
but the plan will not then be a rigid document that we are stuck with. It will still be largely conceptual,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The notion of an emergency egress back out to Route One, the idea of the basketball courts, and where they might be, parking for the Little League fields, parking for the fields in the back, how the fields might be rearranged. These are all, this is how the whole thing can work together, and then we get to choose how we want to execute on those concepts.
Yeah, I think, to your point, Bruce, I think, this is exactly what you just said. It's kind of a conceptual design.
Right.
And then we would move to maybe hiring and putting out for bid a design build, or just a design, or, so I think those are all conversations to be had.
Yeah, and I think we heard, why are we having landscape architects design the surf club? We're not.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They're simply responding to the need and saying that facility with those needs, we think would probably best fit here. And then they drew a box around that little piece of land. They're not doing it. The living shoreline, the coastal fortification, they're saying there are technologies out there that can accomplish this, and this is about what they would look like, but they're not the engineering firm that would design them. So they are,
Yeah.
they're perfectly suited because they're experts in coastal landscaping design, but they are not the group that we'll turn to figure out how to pave a road out to Route One, or how to, engineer a parking lot. So this is not going to be a rigid, once we say we like this master plan, doesn't mean that that's all set in stone now.
As any master plan is, so, but as any master plan is, right? It's a guidepost, it's a roadmap, but it's not a rigid document. Sorry, time to move on?
I was going to, play host here with
Yeah.
the most. And in the spirit of moving along, I was just going to summarize at least a couple of things that I heard that we want to get some more follow up on, and maybe you guys could jump in. But Bruce, I know you mentioned sort of this notion of purpose and use, and maybe listing out sort of those defined purpose and uses. Jen, I know you mentioned the value of the building and figuring that out. Bruce, also the list of dates. One other thing I would add to that conversation also, that has come up quite a bit, is maybe an opportunity to collect more feedback, whether there's a feedback button, something on the website, for people to provide commentary or ideas. I think that would be useful versus just the random pages that are out on social
There
media.
is an email button right now that you could click on,
Nice.
and it's Jeannie, if you could help me, is it Madison Surf Club at madisonct.org?
Surf Club plan at madisonct.org.
Maybe we could figure out a way to share that somehow, and then those of us that know how to use social media are happy to share it away.
It's
How's
been
that?
out there, but we will put a new thing out about it, and we have gotten probably I don't know, like 10 or something emails so far with some comments from
Nice.
people.
Yeah, and I'll say, because I have a computer right here, just if folks are on the website, if you go to the main page, madisonct.org, and just scroll about halfway down under popular links, you'll see something that you can click for Surf Club Master Plan. In there, you will find all of the project presentations and resources. And then it doesn't necessarily have a tab, but it does say questions, and you can just copy and paste Surf Club Plan at madisonct.org into your email. And you can send any questions, comments, concerns that you would like for everybody to hear about.
Very good. Fantastic. All right, gang. Thanks for the updates. Thanks for the conversation. Great stuff. And the planning will continue. Can we move on to number 9? Does that sound good?
Yep.
Yeah, or if
So-
it's okay, I'm gonna bow out. You don't need me, right, for the rest, because I
You're
just
good.
got a little thing going on here that I probably should step out for. So,
Yep.
okay. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Number 9, discuss and take action to enter into a 5-year capital lease agreement with the First American for purchasing the approved 2027 CIP highway equipment replacement schedule and authorizing the first selectwoman to sign all documents associated with this lease pending Board of Finance approval. Can I have a motion?
Moved. Second.
And a second, Bruce?
Second.
Great. Any discussion on that?
I see that Kristen got thrown under the bus on this one.
Look at Austin left me. Yeah, no, we did really well. We got under 5%. The Board of Finance actually was kind enough to open their agenda for me last Wednesday. So they have approved.
Great.
Austin knows we have a lot of equipment and pieces that everyone is just ready to go. And so this year, I will say everyone got it to me right away. I reached out for financing. It went really well. And we're gonna work with someone we've worked with before. Our attorney loves the plan. Everybody's very happy. So we will be ready to go July 1.
Very good.
All right.
Any other
If you
comments?
approve it.
Any other comments? All in favor? Raise your hand and say aye.
Thank you.
All right, Bruce, 4-0. Number 10, discuss and take action to approve calling of a special town meeting in Neck River Elementary School on Monday, July 13th, 2026 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of approving a special appropriation in the amount of $1 million into the Major Roads Fund as per the 2026-2027 Capital Improvement Program. Can I have a motion? Ed?
Second.
And Al, second. Any discussion?
I would say this got a lot of discussion during the budget season. I think the fact that it got a lot of discussion during the budget season means it shouldn't be coming as a surprise. This is the follow through. And this is money that is in the excess fund balance.
That's why we have it.
So these are property tax dollars that we've collected that we are deploying back into community. I think roads are probably everybody's favorite project. So I think this is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Very good. Number 10, we'll move on to citizens' comments, which is number 11. Do we have any hands raised? I see one.
Yes, we do. Hold on one second. Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Jim Schmaltz, Jonathan's Landing.
Again, I can't. The cat, really?
So there was just a lot on this whole thing that I understand we're doing $1 million for the roads, but here we are, and this was all kind of discussed, so and Bruce kind of summed it up. And I think the attitude that I had, and I know some other people, was this should have been in the budget, right? Or if we're going to pick and choose if we had put the other, well, I'll use the turf field as the example, right? Because that was what was going on. So if the turf field was getting voted on the 13th, and we also need all of this stuff now, we look at the surf club, that's going to happen. Maybe we would readdress that, but that's not what was done. CIP decided that the turf fields are more important. People are always going to vote for it. So this is the way we group this all together. Realistically, the $1 million should have been in there, and then you wouldn't have had to be going through this ordeal here. On the surf club, it sounds like what was presented is what the master plan is. We have one option, so you had 2 information sessions where people talked about things. You presented a plan, and now this is the plan. Now there's, details that you get to pick here and there, what's going to happen. We're looking at creating event space for summer camps at an enormous expense. We're spending $27,000 per year per student at this point, and now we're going to build an event space on the beach for them to be able to go and do that. We could take the team's room and put air conditioning in it, and then that would resolve that. Office space into that building, it doesn't make sense. I get there needs to be a certain amount and all of that, but none of us had a say in any of this. And it was really insulting. One of the top things people requested was office space in the building. That's just gaslighting at the finest. You're also, like, you're $1,000 to rent the surf club now. And one of the top complaints, which I do believe was true, is people said it's too expensive. You need to look at Penfield Pavilion in Fairfield. They just went through this. So they have, a pavilion event space. I think it's 150 people it'll do. It's got HVAC and a kitchen in it. For exactly what you guys are talking about, so caterer can bring in, heat up, and, serve out of. It's $5,000 a night, per event for that space. It cost them, I think it was $13 million to build that. And there's nothing else there. There's no offices. There's no event space. There's nothing. It's one big empty room. They also have another pavilion that I think is open, and they're getting $1,800 or something like that, or $2,000 a night for that. That's, it's not realistic to do that if this is what everybody wants, but this is the only choice you're giving them. You're not saying, hey, you know what? Let's do an open air pavilion and put something further back. Let's talk about some other options. The fact that you guys all decided, 5 people on the beach and rec and some other facilities members, which are all personally picked and appointed out of the volunteer list to these groups isn't right. There's just, there's a lot you're not giving the people. You're not taking their input. You're not giving them a back and forth session. You're presenting to them, which is what this town does. You guys should all be wearing collars because all you're doing is preaching. You're standing up there, you're preaching to us. This is what it's going to be. Don't question it. Don't ask questions. You sending some stuff and, like, there's no opportunity for any of this to have any major changes going forward. This is kind of.
Thanks, Jim. Oh, kind of 2 minutes at this point. So you good? Did you wrap up your comments here?
No, not really. I think you get the gist on that. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, and again, I was trying to do a proclamation for to make July a military Appreciation Month in September. The fact that that was never brought up, it was never, wasn't decided upon. It was just, pushed off to what we were doing. Maybe we can do a little bit more on the current events. And then I go to committee meetings. They skip the Pledge of Allegiance, and then even our, 200 party planning committees doesn't even bother putting the Pledge of Allegiance in the agenda. So we're celebrating the birth of our country and the birth of our town, and we're not, willing to give any props to the people who, put their lives on the line to give it to us and to protect us from day to day. And I'll end my comments there.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Anybody else out there, Jeannie, who has a public comment?
Nobody else online.
Going once,
In the room?
going twice. All right. With that, I will ask a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Moved.
Second?
All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Good. Adjourned. Thank you, everybody.